Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Driving with Miranda on the Car Guide. Yes, I am inside the Mazda MX-30 GT. I am not outside because it is frigid and I'm truthfully not a good Canadian and I don't like to be cold. So welcome to the Mazda. We are going to explore Mazda's first electric vehicle together. Let's see what it's all about. I've been super excited to drive this particular vehicle for quite some time now, basically since the moment that I heard about it. This is the Mazda MX-30 GT. Now, Mazda's been so late to the game for so many things, whether it's been diesel, electric car, or even just adding CarPlay to their vehicles. They're always just kind of a step behind. And that kind of sucks for them because otherwise Mazda's a really good forward-thinking company. I love the design of their vehicles. Their cars drive really well. They're fun. They can be affordable. It's a great first car, a great family car. They have so many options, but they always just kind of seem to be a step behind. And I don't know if that's just because they're, taking their time and making sure whatever they bring out is exactly perfect and as good as it can be, or if they're just, behind. Whatever the case may be, this is the MX-30 and this is their first fully electric vehicle. So what have I got here? Let me tell you all the numbers first, and then we're going to talk about how they work and don't work. Now, this is the MX-30 GT. Now, despite the X, it's kind of like the MX-5 Miata. There is no all-wheel drive, so this is a front-wheel drive model, which I was kind of disappointed with because it looks very much like a CX-30. So it's a little bit jacked up, has a really nice exterior I'm going to get to later. And it starts, I have the GT version, there's a GS as well. Doesn't change the range or anything like that, just changes up some of the amenities and appearances. So I have the GT, which sits at just under $49,000 starting price. So before you've added anything. And in terms of the battery, it is a smaller battery, it's lightweight, and because of that, the range is rather small. So they estimate, best case scenario, you can get between 160 and 170 kilometers of range on this. And I have 143 horsepower and 200 pound-foot of torque. And of course the e-drive, so one gear. It's kind of like a CVT. There are no gears to shift, it just goes. All right, now we got all that out of the way. You heard me say the range. So 160 to 170. Like, I don't drive a whole lot, especially with the whole state of the world. I'm working from home. I shop within my area. My child goes to school within 20 kilometers of where I live, 20 one way, 20 the other. My parents live a little bit far. They're 60 clicks either way. So right there, things get a little bit stressy. And I have not felt range anxiety before in an EV, like within the recent years, even when I had the Mini E. So I looked it up just to make sure, and the electric Mini Cooper has best case scenario 170. And I remember when I had it, and it wasn't the winter, so I get it, it's cold weather here now, very cold. And I had the Mini when it was a little bit warmer, though not super warm, because if I remember correctly, I was wearing the same jacket and I had a GT Racer in the back. So and I didn't feel the same anxiety that I feel with the MX-30. I feel like this vehicle, even if I set it in, super regen recoup mode and I'm driving very carefully and I'm speed limit on the highway, that it really plows through the kilometers and the range, and I'm not recouping what I should be. Again, I've driven a lot of EVs and we have the e-Golf as our at-home car, and I'm able to get back some of the miles or kilometers that I go through when I'm on the highway, because that's the worst for driving any EV, those long stretches without any braking or regen. It's just terrible. But I'm able to get it back with other vehicles, and I didn't feel that in the MX-30, and truthfully was quite happy to have a backup vehicle throughout having this car for the longer distances that I had to do when I didn't have time to go to a level 2 or level 3. Now, there are charging stats on Mazda's website. I don't remember all of them. Obviously, if you're on a level 3, which this one can take, or the highest voltage, you can get back quite a bit, I think up to 100 kilometers in less than 30 minutes. So if you're looking to just give yourself a boost, you want to get to one of those high chargers. Now, plugging into the wall, like just the socket at our condo, it would give me anywhere from 12 to 14 hours for a full charge, all the way up to 22 hours, obviously dependent on how depleted the battery was at the time. And of course, the lower the battery was, like the less it had in it, the harder it was for it to get back up. And we really struggled with that. So I had to bring it to a fast charger to get it up, because it just wasn't taking it from the wall. And of course, again, like I said, the weather doesn't help. You know, I've got, just turning the heat down now because I realized I had it turned up severely high because I was defrosting the windows. And then, you know, fan speed and all that stuff. All these little things that you need to keep in mind driving an EV in the winter. Now, of course, because I don't have a fast charger at home and because the e-Golf is plugged in, I didn't precondition. That would be a huge, huge thing to do if I owned this vehicle for the winter. I would need my own plug, I would need my own spots, and I would have to, of course, precondition before I left in order to heat up the car so that I wasn't jacking everything like I just did while I was away from a plug. Because you want to do all that when you're still plugged in and you're pulling electricity from another source, not from your battery. Now, in terms of the drive itself, it feels just like a Mazda, and that's perfect and great. And I've said it before, with vehicles like this that have very little learning curve, you know, it is fully electric, absolutely no gas, and it doesn't feel any different than a gas-powered Mazda. The interior is a little bit different, and again, we'll get to that, but not different enough that you get in and you go, hold up, like, what is this spaceship that I just got into? No, it's recognizable. So is the drive. It has, you know, it has the Skyactiv E engine. It's got the vectoring system, the G4, like all the things that the other Mazda vehicles have. They've translated into this EV really well and really smoothly and seamlessly. And they've done a good job. I think the range aside, you know, they can work on that. They can give it a bigger battery. You know, it doesn't have a frunk because all the stuff is up there. So they've got room, and you're going to see, like, there's a space there. So if they want to add more lithium or try and figure it out in the back, you know, this thing has quite a bit of trunk space, a really good sized back seat. It's got the suicide doors. So not the easiest when you're in a parking lot, because you do have to open up the driver's or the driver or passenger side door quite wide to be able to open up the secondary door, which again, you'll see. So, I mean, kids and swinging the doors, and it could be dangerous, but you know, it creates a nice, really wide opening back there for a car that's really not that much bigger than the Golf. Park them side by side, and while this one seems to ride higher and bigger, essentially it's not, but it has a really good sized trunk as well. Steering is really precise. I never felt like I was disconnected. I like that it has a little bit of an engine noise. I don't know if they did that on purpose. It sounds like something. I'm not cruising in silence. I don't sound like a Jetson car like the Golf does. Like, it's not like, you know, floating beside me. It sounds like a car, which is nice. And then, of course, like I said, everything else is very Mazda-centric, and you're going to recognize it, and you're going to recognize how it drives. It's not terrible in the snow. Of course, there's wheel spin because of that instant power, even if you don't hit the throttle hard. With an electric car, that's a little bit hard to get used to. You don't have any lag, so when you give it, it goes, and if it's got no traction, you're going to spin. But once you get used to that, you know, it's not a terrible car to drive. I mean, there are people that drive front-wheel drive cars all the time. They don't need all-wheel drive in the winter, so you just got to learn to deal with it. And it's I wish it had more range. They just got to get on that. As a city car, it's perfect. You know, if I was honestly just staying in my area, my parents didn't live where they did, I didn't have, you know, a job that also is about 70 clicks either way, if and when I had to go to the office, then yeah, this is ideal. Is it ideal if you're in the city and you only use it, let's say, on the weekends to run errands for 50 grand? That's where it becomes a little less, it makes a little less sense to me. There are other options that are a little bit cheaper. You know, if you look at the ID4 that's coming up, you know, Volkswagen priced it's at 44, I believe, so it's just a little bit under this one, but the GS is around 44, so that's the same price. But you're getting double the range. You know, they're estimating that the ID4 is 400 kilometers. I haven't driven it yet. I'm just saying you have that option, and it is larger than this. You know, more trunk space and a little bit higher up, and floor proper doors, not the suicide doors. So did Mazda place themselves properly in the segment? I think it's a good first effort. I think it's unfortunate that this first effort is coming at a time when it is, because every other manufacturer is already kind of here, and Mazda's coming in at like here. And they all started here, but they've already made that progression, and now Mazda's got to play that catch-up game again. And I think they're smart enough, and I think they'll figure it out. And right now, the Mazda MX-30 GT or GS, or MX-30 in general, is only available in Quebec and BC. If you live in any other province, so sorry, you can't get it. Maybe you will eventually, but for now, BC and Quebec are the only ones taking orders. And I think that they were smart to do that, because again, it gives a good idea of the popularity or the demand that they're going to have for this vehicle. Now, of course, Quebec and BC are the top EV buying provinces, which is why they did what they did. Do I think they'll do well? I think within Mazda loyalists, yes, they will. People who have driven Mazdas forever and have waited for this vehicle to come are going to want to see it and want to drive it, and will be curious about it, especially if they live a very urban life that doesn't require a high amount of mileage throughout the week. For everybody else, it might be a hard sell. And I think that's kind of sad. And I think even if you are in the market for an EV and you think that the Mazda MX-30 might not be right for you, you should still check it out. Have a look and see the quality that it has for the interior, the way it drives, its amenities, the little things make it worth the price that they've put on it. Range aside, if that's not an issue for you, drive it, see it, feel it, sit in it, and you're going to see the difference and see the Mazda-ness of it. And I think that's really important for this car.
Now, inside the Mazda MX-30 GT, despite it being an EV, you're going to find very Mazda accessories, that is. So you're going to recognize immediately when you step into this car. Everything is pretty much identical to a normal Mazda, Mazda 3, a CX-5, a CX-7, all of that. You know that this is Mazda, from the steering wheel to the dash-mounted screen for your entertainment, your HMI, and your backup camera, all the way down to the large knob in the middle used to navigate your onboard entertainment system. Now, the main difference in this is that it has a really funky, cool, well, not fully actually, but a touchscreen HVAC system. So where all of your climate controls are, just behind the shifter, it is touchscreen. Now, there are buttons, so thank you, Mazda. You do not have to do all the touchy-feely things to change your temperature and or fan speed. You do have buttons on the side, but if you want to be fancy about it, you can also touch the screen. Now, the gauge cluster is almost fully digital, which is pretty cool. You also have a full color head-up display in this, which is fun. Of course, you can always remove it if you don't like to see it while you're driving. And then when it comes to the materials that are used inside in the Mazda MX-30, these are sustainable, recycled materials. So even in the center dash, I've got cork in here, which is pretty cool. The wine drinker in me is pleased to see that. Though I gotta say, I don't know how it would fare if I constantly put a wet pair of gloves in the little storage compartment underneath the shifter. Of course, you could try not to do that, but you know, I always think about winter usability with these vehicles, and the cork is cool and all, but I wonder how well it would fare with, you know, constant moisture on it. Other than that, the seats are super comfortable. I really like the material. It's like this corduroy genie gray fabric, really nicely paired with the light beige. And yeah, just lots of room in here. The back seat is great. I like the suicide doors. I know they're not super practical, but I think it's kind of cool. And the trunk is a really decent size. Of course, you've got the storage bag back there for your portable charge cable, and then lots of room for all your goodies. Now, there is no frunk. There is simply all of the engine things up there, not the gas engine, I know. All the bits and bobs that make the car work, though, they are up there. So yeah, don't open the trunk open the frunk thinking that you're going to find a front trunk, because you won't. But other than that, inside, plenty of room. Absolutely love this. Again, fully Mazda in here. I've got my 12 Bose speakers as well, which are really nice and sound really good in this size vehicle. So good job, Mazda. They kept that typical Mazda flair inside, as they have with all of their vehicles. Mazda's really flown on the wings of this Kodo design for quite a while now. I think the first Kodo vehicle was the new, I want to say, the Mazda 3. Maybe like 2014, 2015. the earliest. Anyways, Kodo has been around for quite a little while now, and it's not a bad thing, and I'm happy that they're sticking to it, and it really does bring that family resemblance across the lineup. And now most manufacturers have that, that front grille that stays the same, but with Mazda, like, they're really similar vehicles. They look pretty much identical, save for ride height and wheelbase size, and size in general. Otherwise, you line up those Mazdas and they are very much related to each other. And this MX-30 GT is absolutely no difference. It has the same front end, that Kodo sharp nose, angular headlights, the overhanging hood over the lights, and then the same with the back. You've got really angled, kind of like shelf-like tail lights, and I really, really like that. And honestly, having that subtle electric Mazda badge along the back C-pillar, I think that's super cool and really classy of Mazda. Now, of course, you got the Sky Active badge in the back as well, but otherwise you'd never really know that this is an EV. And truthfully, it kind of looks like, quickly, if you're just glancing, like a CX-30. It doesn't look much different. It is smaller than the CX-30. And then it almost looks like a Mazda 3. Again, quickly, if you look and you're not really paying attention, it looks like a hatchback. So, and I like that about the MX-30, that just because it's something different doesn't mean they had to make it look different. They didn't have to go spaceship. They didn't have to go futuristic. And while it has subtle little differences from the other Mazdas in the lineup, it is very much a Mazda, and, great on them for keeping it the same. And I think it looks great, especially in this white. Really suits it. It's a beautiful looking car. I think it's going to age very well. And it just looks really aggressive, but in like a modern way. And I like that.
Well, that's been it for me in the Mazda MX-30 GT fully electric vehicle. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have. Of course, it has its goods, it has its bads. I wish for more range, but I love the design and I love how it drives. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but you know what? If you're a Mazda fan and you don't drive a lot of kilometers, then this is definitely something you should check out. Well worth it in the end. Again, Mazda MX-30 GT. There's a GS version, don't forget. Thanks so much for checking it out with me. And if you have any questions or comments, as always, you can hit me up at Miss Miranda L on Twitter or Instagram, Miranda Lightstone on Facebook.com, or drop a comment below. Hope to see you guys back next week.